Welcome to this new Flight Simulator update movie. In this movie we're gonna look at what has changed in the beta release of Sim Update number 10. It has been released yesterday for both the Xbox and for the PC. So if you were part of the, say, interim hotfix for the Xbox, then you will be automatically ported over to the Sim Update number 10 beta because they closed that previous program. So let's see what they have let's say fixed, right? One of the important things is that what they mentioned in their release notes is that Sim Update number 10 beta is the representative product of the eventually Sim Update, because there might be some issues in it, but hey, that's why it's called a beta, right? So first of all, be careful if you're using virtual reality with DX12. DX stands for DirectX. There's an issue with that, so be aware of that. There's a new thing where you can now add secondary windows on the left and right side of the main screen, right, to enlarge your view. So that's really cool. If you're using multiple monitors, you can make it even more realistic. You need to enable that option via the experimental option in the menu in the game. And there's a fix for, or not a fix, NVIDIA DLSS is now available as an anti-aliasing and upscaling option on the PC. So this is something which I would say might boost up the performance of Flight Simulator when having an NVIDIA graphic card. They implemented a new layer, cloud layer system that will ensure that there's clouds are more precise and also low altitudes to reflect the various cloud altitudes and thickness close to the ground. So looking forward for that. And they fixed several systems for the boost trips, including the save system improvements, right? You can save it locally, but you can also do a cloud save. And the overall progress system improvements, and make sure that we review after each leg completion. This is something which in the past needed to be done manually. So I would say when reading this, I do think that they will now do it automatically. Which is a little bit a pity, right? Because normally if you would, I would say, use an aircraft, you need to review it yourself also. But let's see. Then we've got the VFR map. The VFR map now includes a new number of quality of life features. And that's due to the fact of working title, right? Working title created the G1000 NXI system, this one. And there's now compatibility added for the VFR map as it looks like. And the good news is that the G1000 NXI is now the default G1000 in the simulator. So if you're, for example, using the Cessna aircraft with a G1000 let's say navigation system, it has been now replaced with the G1000 NXI, because the G1000 NXI has some more features like VNAV, procedure turns, holds, visual approaches, and I would say I'm already using it for a longer time, right? Because you can already use, or you could have already used this one in beta. So really looking forward to this change. Then there's some new key mapping options, which are available for taxi and navigation ribbon visual assistances. So it looks like that you can easily switch them on or off by using, I would say, shortcut on the keyboard. All in-game moving boats now have a wake effect on the PC. Make sure here also says that you should be aware that not all boats are moving. So I'm wondering how this will affect it. Low power mode. It's available in the experimental option. That's especially if you're in the menu, right? Then the PC continues to, let's say, consume a lot of energy. So they now implemented an option where you can, I would say, decrease the, let's say, power usage. Then the good news for all community members and for all developers is that they remove the encryption of the config files for the premium and deluxe planes, which will make you, I would say, makes it possible to modify those aircrafts. So probably we will see a lot of, I would say, community members making some changes to improve the default premium and deluxe airplanes. Then there's a new Spotlight event, landing challenge. It's using the Cessna Citation CG4, and you will need to land on Entebbe International Airport in Uganda. So something in Africa. Maybe that's, I would say, an indication that Africa will get an update in the near future in one of the world updates, but let's see. And that's it makes it hard due to the low cloud cover. this challenge requires the use of ILS, right? So make sure that you know how to use ILS. Then there's a new package ordering system. Both that's only available on the PC, so not on the Xbox, and you also need to enable it in the experimental option menu. And there's a new in-game server link to provide feedback. Here's a, let's say, strong note about them, right? Important G1000 NXI beta nodes. If you like to test the latest G1000 NXI included with sim update number 10, right, which is recommended, then you need to remove the previous installed NXI beta version. So it also says, hey, during this test period with the marketplace NXI uninstalled, the Lexi AS 1000 and not the NXI will appear in third-party airplanes, and that they will release an update to the marketplace concurrent with the final release of sim update number 10. So be aware of that. You need to remove the G1000 NXI if you want to, let's say, use it correctly, but that will have a negative effect on other airplanes which are using the G1000 NXI, for example, third-party ones. WASM support on Xbox is not available in this build, so if you were waiting for WASM support, then I would say you need to wait a little bit longer before they add it to the build. Now going to all the fixes. So the fixes are, I would say, mainly concentrated to crashes, but also performance optimizations, as you can see, especially also performance updates when more than 4 world update photogrammetry packages are installed. Well, I'm not sure how many you have installed, but I installed everyone or everything. So probably that's, I would say, applicable to a lot of us. So hopefully that will be fixed. Then there's a faster loading sequence after the press any button screen. And there's a fix where the JavaScript WebSockets were not released properly after the connection failed. New essential package updates flow introduced on the Xbox, right? So there's to reduce a risk of crashes. So there are sometimes dependencies on packages, and it looks like they now build in something which I would say makes sure that those packages are updated correctly, which prevent crashes. Also, they fixed the potential performance issues with third-party airplanes caused by lights, and they fixed intensive write operations that could occur during initial flight on Steam. Well, I'm not using Steam, but if you're using it, that I would say is now fixed. Going to the navigation and traffic, they fixed the ATC reporting wind speeds in feet per second instead of knots. And there's a SimVAR on any runway will now work even without following the ATC procedures. Right, ATC sometimes is a little bit acting weird in Flight Simulator 2020, so there's now a different variable which you can use for navigation purposes. The flight planner will now try to keep the procedure transitions when loading an external flight plan, so that's cool. So for example, if you create a flight plan, well, using SimBrief, for example, it will now try to honor them. So looking forward to that, because this means that it's imported correctly. Then going to the weather data, weather, they added interpolation out of METAR data when getting away from the METAR data. Okay, really weird sentence, but looks like that they made some changes there. They added some gusts to live weather, dynamic pressure, and air density. Per feedback, the turbulence and drafts have been reduced to 90% at 0 knots and 50% at 1 knot speed, so they made some changes to the turbulence because that was probably a little bit too heavy. So improvement panels in the weather panel. So a lot of fixes already for the weather. Then going to the activities, they fixed potential glitches. In the replay option, they fixed loading flight plans or flights from the cloud storage. And they fixed the countdown remaining on screen when animations are disabled in low altitude variations like the Maverick. Some statistics were not updated. The nav map has received some updates also. You can now search for nav8 as it looks like, and there's an ability to click on the nav8 in airports to pull up the nav8 in airport data. So this is something which I'm looking forward to see how it works. And also accessing the nav8 in airport data will now open a pane with the following details. So the identifier, the location, in case of an intersection. In case of an NDB, it will also, of course, pull the same data, but also the name and frequency. And for the VOR, it will pull the frequency and magnetic variation in addition to that. The airport, of course, has some more data, like the runways, but also the available communication channels and the available ILS frequencies and the meter data. So looking for this change. Planes. Well, the plane list is so long that I won't go to all of them, because as you can see here on this site, I think almost every plane has got an update. So you can see that based on this, they really try to take all the feedback which I would say you and me are, I would say, providing to them to improve the simulator, right? Sometimes I know it's really frustrating that it doesn't work the way you expect, but please provide those feedback to Asobo via tickets, via the fora, because you can see that those issues are taken seriously. As mentioned, I will not go to all of them because there are so many fixes for so many aircrafts, including the Dark Star. Let's see. Yeah, if we go to it, right, it looks like multiple things. Systems are fixed, the behavior of the aircrafts are fixed. So really cool to see. So I would say I'm going to skip the aircrafts for now because it simply is too long, and then we'll concentrate on the other items for now. So they improved some fixes on the airport EDDF, which I think is Düsseldorf, if I'm correct, on runway 25R, and they fixed several small airports. And then in the UI, which is the user interface, there was a bug in the marketplace which is fixed. There's a fixed deported VFR Map widget on a later screen or a lateral screen that couldn't be zoomed. And they created the experimental tab for the experimental features, but that one is only available on PC, right? So don't search on when you're playing it on the Xbox, you won't find it. The change frame rate option description to better explain when the option actually does when a screen refresh rate is different than 60 Hz. So that is simply, you would say, help text. And they added the options to customize subtitles. I'm really looking forward for what that is. Also from accessibility, they added several things like screen narration throughout the menus, doing the multiple options. That's really good to see. And they added and remove friend option in the game, so you can add a friend or remove a friend. Several peripheral issues were with keyboard secondary bindings, right? I got a question lately, okay, hey, where's that second column for? Because that second column is in most cases empty. Well, you can bind two key combinations, I would say, to the to one option. For example, if you would say, hey, I want to raise the gear with the G, right, the Golf, but also when pressing shift and the letter G, hard to say, then you can use both of them to say perform the same functionality. So that's now being fixed. They fixed also the triggered when the head switch is used on a combination with a button, and they added a new short keyboard preset aimed to support 60% of the keyboards. That's for the probably for the smaller keyboards which they want to fix. Then for those who have the Turtle Beach Velocity 1 on the Xbox, there's good news. There's added LED and SIP support for the Turtle Beach. So if you're using it, that would be cool, because then finally when you're playing it on the Xbox, you can use those nice lights which are on the front. Keep in mind that they're mostly only working correctly with the default aircrafts and not with the third-party aircrafts. VFR, several things. The depth reprojection option is added to get smoother experience, and also a world scale perception option slider in the VR graphics is there. Some other options also being fixed. The SDK, well, we're not going too much to it because we're not a channel which is concentrating on the dev, but you can see that several items have been added as part of the let's say developer tools. So that's good, because then the developers can even make their aircrafts hopefully better and use the nice options which the simulator provides. So that's it, right? So I would say based on this, we can already conclude that if all these fixes are included in sim update number 10, it will be a huge update. Now the next question is, how can you get it? Well, if you want to do it, you can go to the Xbox Insider. So let me show you. So this is the Xbox Insider app, and inside the Xbox Insider app, you can access the previews. And in the previews window, you will see, of course, Microsoft Flight Simulator Beta. So once you click it, you can click join. And if you click the join button, you can say, hey, I want to continue. And then it will start to continue. It will join the beta program. of course, prior to doing this, there are a few warnings, which I should have mentioned to you, is that if you join it and the final release of Sim Update 10 will be there, it could be resulting that you need to completely reinstall Flight Simulator if you have the community folder, let's say, and the content folder in the default locations. So that's why it's kind of strongly recommended to make sure that those folders are moved out of the equation. I've posted a different video about that on my channel, so I would say if you look at the top, there's now a bar which shows where you can find that video. Because if you don't do that, don't say that it will become a mess, but you will need to reinstall everything, and that, believe me, that requires you to download several gigabytes of data. Once you join the beta program, it's likely that you need either to wait a few hours, or you can reboot your machine and then install the update. Once you have installed the update via the normal way, right? Simply wait for the store to update it and then start Flight Simulator to update the remaining content. Then you're free to play Flight Simulator 10 beta. Or let's say, no, not Flight Simulator 10 beta, Flight Simulator 2020 Sim Update 10 beta. So here ends this video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you got questions or comments, then feel free to post in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm posting, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.